Have you ever wondered what's happening inside your brain when you feel a rush of happiness, solve a complex problem, or learn a new skill? What are the biological gears that turn behind the curtain of your thoughts, emotions, and actions? For centuries, the relationship between our physical brain and our conscious mind was a profound mystery, a topic for philosophers and mystics. Today, it's the frontier of a fascinating science. Welcome to part 1 of our comprehensive series on physiological psychology. In this foundational episode, we will embark on a journey to understand the biological basis of behavior. First, we will define physiological psychology and explore its vast scope. We'll unpack the 4 ways scientists explain behavior, moving beyond common sense to the physiological, developmental, evolutionary, and functional roots of our actions. Then, we will travel back in time to trace the origins of the field. We'll start with the great philosophical debate between dualism and monism. We'll meet the major historical figures who laid the groundwork, from ancient physicians like Hippocrates to 19th century pioneers like Paul Broca. By the end of this video, you will have a complete introduction to the field that bridges biology and psychology, and appreciate the long, fascinating journey it took to get here. Let's begin with a clear definition. Physiological psychology, also known as biological psychology or behavioral neuroscience, is the subfield of psychology that explores the biological foundations of behavior and mental processes. Its primary goal is to understand the intricate relationship between the brain, the nervous system, and our actions. While traditional psychology might focus on perception and memory from an abstract viewpoint, physiological psychology digs deeper, seeking to uncover the biological mechanisms that make these processes possible. It combines the methods of psychology with the discoveries of neuroscience to answer questions like, how does brain activity give rise to our thoughts, and how do neurotransmitters and hormones shape our choices? Scholars have defined it in several ways. Morgan described it as understanding the biological foundations of behavior by examining the brain. Cajal emphasized how biological mechanisms shape our perception and emotions, and Pinnell highlighted the research techniques used, like brain imaging. At its core, it's the science that links the physical matter in our skulls to the rich, subjective experience of being human. Physiological psychology moves beyond common-sense explanations. It offers 4 deeper levels of explanation for any behavior. Physiological explanations. Well, this level links behavior directly to the activity of the brain and body. For example, in many male songbirds, the hormone testosterone influences brain areas responsible for singing. So, the behavior is explained by the immediate physiological cause. Ontogenetic explanations describe how a behavior develops over an individual's lifetime, shaped by genetics and experience. For example, the development of impulse control in humans is an ontogenetic process, as the prefrontal cortex gradually matures through adolescence. Evolutionary explanations reconstruct the evolutionary history of a behavior. A classic example is human goosebumps. This reflex, is inherited from our much hairier ancestors, for whom puffing up their fur helped them appear larger. It serves little purpose for us now, but its history explains its existence. Functional explanations dive into why a behavior evolved, highlighting its adaptive value. For example, camouflage in an animal is a functional adaptation that helps it avoid predators, improving its chances of passing on its genes. The scope of physiological psychology is honestly vast. By understanding the biological basis of behavior, we gain critical insights with profound practical applications. It helps us understand that emotions are rooted in biological processes, with the amygdala linked to fear and anxiety. It also uncovers how different brain regions support cognition, with the hippocampus being essential for memory. Crucially, it helps us address psychological disorders. Many disorders, like depression and schizophrenia, have biological underpinnings, such as imbalances in serotonin and dopamine. This knowledge paves the way for effective treatments like the medications that alter neurotransmitter activity. The field's findings are vital for advancing medicine, from understanding brain injuries to the mechanisms of addiction. You know, the very origins of physiological psychology actually lie in a pretty profound philosophical debate about the relationship between the mind and the body. The perspective of dualism was most famously championed by the 17th century philosopher René Descartes. Dualism is the view that the mind and body are two fundamentally separate entities. According to Descartes, the body is a physical, material structure that functions kind of like a machine. The mind, on the other hand, is non-physical and immaterial, and it's responsible for consciousness, thought, and reasoning. This raised the famous mind-body problem. If they are separate, how do they interact? Descartes proposed that this interaction occurred at a single point in the brain, the pineal gland. While modern science has disproven this specific theory, Descartes' framework was groundbreaking. It was the first systematic attempt to understand the mind-body relationship and spurred scientific exploration into the brain. In direct opposition to dualism is monism. Monism is the perspective that the mind and body are not separate but are part of a single unified system. According to this view, all mental processes arise directly from the physical activity of the brain. Monism is the foundational assumption of all modern neuroscience and physiological psychology. It posits that mental states can be explained by observable, measurable biological processes. For example, the feeling of happiness is tied directly to the release of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Memory formation isn't a mystical process, it is a physical change in the brain, where neural pathways strengthen or weaken. Modern brain imaging technologies like functional MRI and EEG allow us to see this in action, providing overwhelming support for the monistic view. This perspective is what allows for modern treatments like antidepressants. Monism moved the study of the mind out of pure philosophy and into the laboratory. The journey from philosophical debate to modern science was paved by the groundbreaking work of several major figures. Long before Descartes, ancient physicians were making crucial observations. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, was among the first to argue that the brain, not the heart, is the center of thought and emotion, rejecting supernatural explanations for mental illnesses. Later, the Roman physician Galen, a physician to gladiators, observed the effects of brain injuries on behavior, laying the groundwork for the concept of localization of function. The 19th century, a truly transformative period in history. This era marked the birth of modern neuroscience, reshaping our understanding of the brain and nervous system in ways that were, well, revolutionary. Let's talk about Luigi Galvani. Through his famous experiments on frog muscles, he uncovered the vital role electricity plays in neural communication. It was a groundbreaking discovery that set the stage for future explorations into how our brains work. And then there's Johannes Müller, who introduced the doctrine of specific nerve energies. This concept of sensory specialization was a significant leap forward, helping us understand how different nerves are responsible for different sensations. It's amazing how these ideas have shaped modern neuroscience. Paul Broca provided one of the most famous proofs for localization of function, identifying a specific region in the left frontal lobe, responsible for speech production, now known as Broca's area. Santiago Ramón y Cajal, often called the father of modern neuroscience, developed the Neuron Doctrine. He established that the nervous system is composed of discrete, individual cells called neurons. And finally, Wilhelm Wundt, the father of experimental psychology, established the first formal psychology laboratory way back in 1879, officially launching psychology as a distinct experimental science. These pioneers took the mind-brain relationship out of speculation and placed it firmly within the world of scientific investigation. Today, we have laid the critical groundwork for our entire series. We have defined physiological psychology as the scientific field that explores the biological foundations of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. We've seen that it provides a richer understanding of behavior by looking at its physiological, developmental, evolutionary, and functional causes. We journeyed back to the origins of the field, exploring the great debate between Descartes' dualism and monism, the modern scientific view that sees the mind as an emergent property of the physical brain. Finally, we honored the pioneers, from Hippocrates to Wundt, whose discoveries transformed the study of the mind into an evidence-based science. In our next episode, Modern Views of the Mind-Brain Relationship, we will explore the cutting-edge theories and models that guide the field today, and we will see the incredible practical implications these ideas have in psychology, medicine, and even artificial intelligence. What was the most surprising historical fact you learned today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're ready to explore the modern science of the mind, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching.